seasons such as what we saw from Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson?
Well, listen, it's kind of tricky because obviously we look at certain things, but I'm going to say a Super Bowl appearance. That's what I'm going to go with, because especially in this day and age with Lamar Jackson potentially en route to capturing his third league MVP, it doesn't mean that much to us anymore, because he's not playing in the biggest game that counts. And so when you look at a Super Bowl appearance, you've won your conference. You're 60 minutes away from a Super Bowl championship. And I think when you look at it from that vantage point, it's not to diminish the league MVP by any stretch of the imagination. But in the case of Lamar Jackson, for example, as we sit here today, we know how great he is. We know how phenomenal he is. We know that he's worthy of MVP consideration, if not achievement. But nevertheless, it doesn't matter. It pales in comparison to a championship. We've got a former league MVP right here on the set right now in Cam. I ask you, Cam, if you could give back that league MVP for a Super Bowl championship, would you do it?
No.
Oh.
Really?
Really?
Wow.
Because you have to ask it through this lens. That was a very journalistic viewpoint or vantage point or response, Stephen A. I'll ask you this question, and, just to pose this thought. What's more important, impact or championships? You look at a guy like Allen Iverson, you stood up on the table and blah, 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 blah. Everybody's not going to be Michael Jordan. Everybody's not going to be Patrick Mahomes. Everybody's not going to be these individuals who have the luxury of saying, hey, I not only dominated this sport, but I also have championships to back it. Like, let me remind you, Brad Johnson won a Super Bowl. Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl. Respectfully, Nick Foles won a Super Bowl. So, yes, when you look at those guys and you say, okay, what's more important? Would you have preferred to win a Super Bowl? I think that's the humble approach, but if we're being honest, the impact of you holding yourself accountable to say everybody has a responsibility to do. And you can say as an MVP award winner or an All-American, you've held yourself or you've held your end of the bargain down. And that's what it really comes down to for me. I know that's not the popular pick. I'm trying to be popularized, but my take is I'm taking individual success because I did my job. Football is not about one guy trying to do 11 jobs. It's 11 guys doing one job. And if everybody does their job best, famous words of our coach, Belichick, just do your job.
Just do it.
I mean, I respect everything that you're saying. It sounds like what you're saying is you think that it would be more impressive, the MVP. I think it would be impressive if the MVP is Lamar, because we've only had a handful that have won 3, and I don't think any of them will run 3 by the time they were 27 years old. Wildly impressive. But ultimately, you guys, Jalen Hurts has now had 2 Super Bowl appearances before age 27 years old. There's only a handful of quarterbacks that have ever done that. In fact, the other ones that have done that before were either Hall of Famers or future Hall of Famers. That is wildly impressive to me, especially when you consider that this guy, how many times have we said with the success of quarterbacks that it is contingent on consistency at the coordinator position. We talked about that with RG3 and why he never ended up living up to that potential, right? We've talked about that time and time again. People seem to forget that Jalen Hurts has had a cycle of coordinators as well, right? This is a guy who we have tried to minimize his contributions as much as possible. I give you that. I still don't necessarily have him in my top 5 just in terms of arm talent, but what he does incredibly well. But ultimately, when we talk about these guys he's trying to join, the Lamar Jacksons, the Josh Allens, what does he have over them? He has 2 Super Bowl appearances in the last 3 years alone. To me, that is more impressive, whether he wins or not, than winning another MVP, simply because you put your team in a position and did what you had to do to get them there to compete for the ultimate prize. The ultimate prize to you may have been the MVP. I think typically the ultimate prize would be winning a championship.
And I think the ultimate prize is definitely winning a championship. But to Cam's point, you control what you can control. And sometimes you're on a team where it's out of your control of getting that championship. But any and everything you could have possibly done, you've accomplished that and then some. When we look at Jalen Hurts, part of the thing where I think you're looking at him in that caliber, because he did have an MVP caliber season in 2022 when they went to the Super Bowl. Didn't win it because Mahomes was that much better, but he was right there on par with him. Cam, you mentioned some of the names that have won Super Bowls. Hell, you can put my name on the list. I won a Super Bowl. I'm sitting here across from an MVP player in Cam Newton. If you have to pick one of our careers, yes, I won a Super Bowl. Hell, I'm taking Cam's 10 times out of 10. I'm raising a little boy. If he can have that level of a career and win an MVP and be one of the best players in the NFL in a given season, that is something extraordinary that not everybody can accomplish. There are going to be 53 guys on an active roster when you win a Super Bowl that are going to be out there in the confetti, putting the T-shirt and the hat on, family going crazy, wife and girlfriend on the field somehow on opposite ends, and we having a blast. There's only going to be one person in a given season that's going to be able to say, I was the MVP. I was the best player in the NFL for that season, the most valuable one on an NFL roster. To me, that supersedes a Super Bowl appearance.
Let me bring it around in a way that y'all might comprehend it just a touch better, okay? You and Cam, all right? So we all in this business, L, me, you, everybody else, you know, we want to get paid, okay? Let me tell you something right now. When you get paid, is the money going into your bank account directly deposited? That answer is yes. You know what the real winners in this business do? They don't think about the money once they know it's there, because now you got to perform and live up to it. You juxtapose that, you take that into account when you're talking about football players. If you a scrub or you an average player, and you have an MVP caliber year, wow, yeah, you love that. But when you're great, the validation to that greatness is championships. It's standing on top when the end arrives, and everybody else is lower because you got what they couldn't achieve. And what I'm saying to you is that if you are an average player, Cam, which obviously you were not, so maybe you can't relate, okay, then, it's a big damn deal to win the league MVP. And I'm not saying it's a small deal even for somebody as great as you were. What I'm saying is, in the end, what you're in pursuit of is standing on top when the end arrives. You're the king. You're the champion. We talk about the LeBrons. We talk about the Jordans. We talk about the Kobes and stuff like that. The reason why we can continuously talk about them is because they got chips to show for it. At some point in time, they were the creme de la creme. They were number one. All right? And number one ain't the MVP for a regular season performance. I promise you. Lamar Jackson didn't give a damn about league MVP this year. When he first got it, it mattered. He didn't give a damn about it this year. He wanted to be playing a week from Sunday. He ain't doing that. It hurts a lot. That MVP ain't going to do much for him. That's what I'm saying.
It's easy for somebody to say something when you have something.
Once you've accomplished it, yeah.
It's almost like, respectfully, Stephen A., you ain't tripping on no money. But at one point of your life, you were thinking, man, I got to get to this bag. I mean, everybody ain't able to go to
Miami. I think he still feels like he wants to get to the bag.
No? For sure. Now, hold on. Now, you're going there, L. You're going there. I didn't go there. He went there. You know, everybody don't have access to company jets and stuff like that. But needless to say, to stay on topic, what I will say to you is this. If the Eagles lose, you know who's going to be the most mad? Saquon Barkley. Because Coach Sirianni took Saquon out of the lineup in order for him to potentially have a generational career. I mean, generational year where he could have beat Eric Dickerson for the rushing title. So when you think about that, looking back at it, when you get to the 40s and the 50s and the 60s, and you look back at your career, the common question is going to be asked, what did you do? Cool. Not only what did you do, and it does not always measure up to Super Bowls, because I've always said this about sports as a whole. You never go into a season saying, oh, it's a me type of thing.
Right.
You got to.
They'll try again, 2nd and 10. They'll fake the handoff. Now Smith. And he's taken down. This will be a Brown sack.
Okay, you know my bias is about to come out here. A lot of people think that the offense is just moving in the wrong direction. I'd say they're moving in the right direction because the defense is putting pushing them back.
Former defensive guy. Now, as a quarterback, 3rd and long, you really got to rally the troops here, don't you?
Yeah, you're doing a big way, and what else do you have to look out for? More pressure coming at you because it seems to be working pretty well.
3rd and long, it's Smith escaping the pressure right. Slings this deep. This is caught inside the 15. And he takes it in. Touchdown, Washington.
A pretty decent game. Other quarterbacks, they have a hard time getting past it and often put the ball up for grabs the rest of the ball game.
And a productive gain out to the 14 after starting at the 7. It's a gain of 7. 7 yards to pick up there. 3 yards remain for 2nd down. Fitzpatrick now. Slings this deep from McLaurin. It got his man complete. And all the way down to the 24-yard line. Quite a show of arm strength right there. That was in the air for a long time, and it was on target, too.
And from where we sit, if you had told me that that ball was somehow going to get from point A to point B, I would have told you no way. I mean, that was an absolute cannon shot. And he still dropped it right on the money, too.
And that ball traveling 68 yards in the air, according to Next Capital and FedEx Field in Landover, Maryland. They love their football in this part of the country, and this crowd is ready to go as their guys will match up with the Buffalo Bills. Two teams more than ready to get this one started. And we are underway from FedEx Field. Ball up to the 35 now as they come up on 1st and 10. Bringing it out of his end zone, Isaiah. And all deep in his own territory. He coughs up the football.
That's what it is, baby. That's
and
what
he
it
will
is.
score. Touchdown, Washington. John Bates. Excellent work there to get in on the touchdown run. And Washington has tied the ball game with the extra point still to come. Now it's Hopkins to add the extra point. And with that, his guys take the lead here by a point.